Welcome back to my channel, guys. I am Broker Danny. This is the Valuation Report with Daniel Sandoval. Today's topic is broker price opinions and ADUs. How do we determine value for properties that have ADUs? Well, it's simple, but it's a little bit difficult, especially when I have to gather the research of the comparables when it comes to finding properties that have ADUs. They're one of the most difficult researches when it comes to that. Right now, we've been seeing an increase in ADUs, and I actually applaud the people who have ADUs because actually it does bring up value. It does bring up your equity when you have an ADU, especially having it rented out and making some extra money. So I always applaud the people, the owners that actually add ADUs on their property. Now, how do we as brokers, real estate agents, determine value when it comes to doing a broker price opinion on a property? Well, like I said, it's a little difficult, but back then when ADUs started becoming a thing, the way I was started determining value is by finding properties that were duplex and triplex and getting the value from there. But that ended quick with the valuation company that I represent. They said, nope, we don't accept that. You got to find properties that have ADUs. So when it comes to that, I have to always research properties that have ADUs, and there's not a lot of them. What I do is I'll try to within 1 mile radius. If I don't find anything, I have to read every detail on the MLS if there's an ADU, because it's not even on title. It's not even added on title. It doesn't say on title additional dwelling or anything like that. No, I have to read every little detail. And sometimes in the MLS, there's realtors, agents that add property is available for a future ADU or make an ADU in the future. And sometimes I think, oh, wait, there's one, and there's nothing. So that becomes difficult. So what I do is I have to read each detail of the MLS. And when I find something that says ADU or even a bonus room, I will use that bonus room as an ADU. And then I compare the values from a property that doesn't have ADU to a property that has an ADU, and you see a big difference. So that's how I determine value. I have to find properties that have an actual ADU. And sometimes, like I said, I'll go within 1 mile radius, within 20% range of square feet. And if I don't find anything, then I have to cross boundaries. I have to go more than a mile radius, up to 5 miles. I got to find at least one property within a list comp and one property within a sold comp, so I could find a value on the subject property. So like I said, I have to read every detail of the MLS to make sure I don't miss one of those properties. And yes, values do increase when you have an ADU. Sometimes there's properties that have an ADU and a junior ADU. You know what a junior ADU is? Well, an ADU could be in a garage. A junior ADU could be in an extra dwelling that they made in the back. So that becomes a junior ADU. Or they separated they divided the garage into an ADU and a junior ADU. So there's a lot of work when it comes to determining value. But the main thing here, I have to find comparables that have one ADU, at least one for listings and one for solds. Sometimes I only find for sold, or sometimes I only find for list comps, but then I determine value from there. And of course, values do increase. So if you are thinking of adding an ADU, please add it. I have people that come across that, they spend about 100,000, maybe 80 to 100,000, 150,000, up to even 200,000 in making an ADU. So their values increase when it comes to the bottom line, and I look at their value from compared to before, your values increase. So that's how we determine value. We have to find at least one comparable with the list comp and a sold comp. Sometimes I can't find one for sold comps, so I'll use one with list comps. And that's how we determine the value. And is there a difference? There's always a difference. There's always a difference. So if you are a homeowner, if you're thinking of making an ADU, it will increase value. Trust me. I do BPOs every day, broker price opinions every day. Even if you talk to an appraiser, he'll tell you the same thing. So yeah, that's the way I determine value when it comes to an additional dwelling, ADU. Stay tuned for another video. Thank you for watching. This is the Valuation Report with Daniel Sandoval. Subscribe and follow.